All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You're in the music, instrumental, and vocal focus, so hopefully you're in the right place. Let me introduce our team. My name is Kelly Larson. I am the string specialist here at Larkin High School. We also have Ruth Kavanaugh. Ruth can give a little wave. She is our wind specialist. James Osborne, who is our percussion and piano specialist. And Megan Pearson, our vocal teacher, could not be here tonight, but she is also another member of our team. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Tonight we just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the schedule, the requirements of being in the academy, tell you a little bit about the classes we teach, and then open it up to any questions if you have any. So, if you have questions as we're going, you can just type them in the chat. Mr. Osborne's going to kind of monitor that and answer everything. So feel free to ask anything, if anything is confusing or if you don't understand what I'm saying. So first I want to talk a little bit about the schedule and the requirements. The academy, we try to keep it very much performance focused. So in addition to our academy classes, all students are required to be in their band, orchestra, or choir class as well during the school day. That is outside of the academy periods. Those are usually in the mornings, so that they get that large ensemble experience. And then their academy classes are at the end of the day, their 7th and 8th period. So they eat the first half of 7th period. They come down to us around 1:35. And then we split the last period and the half of the day between music theory, which we're going to tell you a little bit more about what those classes entail in a minute, and their technique time, which is when they're with their instructor that is the specialist for their focus, like strings, woodwinds, percussion, so on and so forth. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what each of us do in technique classes, and then we'll get to theory in a little bit. So like I said, I'm the string specialist. I take care of all the violin, viola, or cello, and bass orchestra kids. And we do a variety of things in technique. We do academy orchestra, so they get a little bit of large ensemble experience. We perform at most of the orchestra concerts, and Mrs. Kavanaugh is gracious enough to have us at her October choir concert as well. We also do some small ensemble work, like chamber groups, like a string quartet or a string trio. So they get that small ensemble experience as well. And then a lot of time is focused on their individual technique. We're going to talk a little bit more about the private lesson component a little bit later. But I also give my string students a chance to perform in a weekly studio class, which is where maybe 5 kids get up and play something that they're working on. We give some feedback, and it just gives them a chance to perform and, as much as possible, and, working through performance nerves and being able to play for their colleagues and get some feedback. Ruth, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you. So as Ms. Larson mentioned, I work with the winds. So the students, except for percussion, that are band instruments. So a lot of what we do, as Ms. Larson said, is performance-based. So we focus on their building their ability on their individual instrument. So students do play for one another regularly, for critique, for feedback, and it gets easier over time. We try to do sight reading as well, to try to build that skill up in our players. So those are some of the things that we do during that time. And just to give you an idea, the winds clearly would be staying with me for their 4 years. So they stay with their technique teachers for the 4 years. And then later on, we'll explain our different music theory components. Mr. Osborne, you're up.
Alrighty, thank you. So I am Mr. Osborne, and I teach the percussion piano studio. Much like the other examples that you have heard on technique courses, a lot of what we do is based on peer-to-peer review, focusing on that content literacy, being able to respond to musical excerpts and performances with a musical palette in writing. And as well, it kind of works those nerves, as Ms. Larson said, that every musician kind of goes through. I know that I would still get a little bit of nerves if I was performing for people, and the program is geared towards getting you more comfortable with that place, being on the stage or being in front of your peers. As well, we do cover some small percussion ensemble, duet, trio type pieces, and large ensemble, which would involve everybody in the percussion section as well as the piano players that are in the studio. There are some technique tests that we go through that are kind of pre-made, and we try and expand their abilities on their instrument, as Ms. Kavanaugh mentioned, trying to get them more comfortable with their instrument. In regards of percussion, that covers almost 100+ instruments that they can possibly play, and each one of them, believe it or not, has a specific technique to it. So the technique course, depending on whether you're a percussionist or a pianist, may look a little bit different, but we're all making music together and responding to each other's performances with a musical mind and frame.
And Miss Pearson isn't here tonight, but I know that she does a lot of work with the vocal students one-on-one. They do a lot of work. So they get some additional private time with her and Miss Eppolito, our accompanist, to work on the pieces that they're working on in their private lessons. I believe she also does some small ensemble and larger ensemble things, some, 4-part vocal stuff with maybe 4 singers or full choir works. And they also do some vocal nights where they have like vocal studio performances. Everybody gets to get up and, sing their piece with a pianist. So I know that that's something that she also does throughout the year. And she definitely puts an emphasis on, teaching them all the different languages and things like diction and how to sing in all the different languages, a lot about translation so that they know what the text of their song is about. So they focus a lot on that as well. So that's one component of the technique classes. The other thing, which is a really neat thing about our academy and such a huge benefit, is that they get 4 years of private instruction from one of our instructors at Elgin Community College. And it's no cost to them, which is really, I remember what I spent on private lessons as a kid. So this is like a real benefit of our academy. And Ms. Kavanaugh is going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that is such an advantage. It is part of the dual credit program through ECC. So students are earning elective credits for 8 semesters, and they are paired with an expert on their instrument or voice, and they take you wherever your performance level and move you forward and support you. So it's the tradition in music instruction, and it is a huge benefit to the students to work like this. So in addition to your time here, you're getting that one-on-one expertise.
So that covers the technique portion of our curriculum. We're going to talk a little bit about our different theory classes. And the theory classes have really been designed to support them as performers and as musicians as a whole. So I'm going to let Mr. Osborne start because he teaches our freshman class. We each teach a different grade level. So I'll let him start us off here.
Alrighty, so as mentioned, freshmen will go to Theory 1, and that is with me. And in Theory 1, we reinforce some of the basic fundamentals that these students have developed throughout their years as musicians, whether they've had 1 or more years. And this is all content areas. So in Theory 1, I will get all vocalists, all string players, all pianists, and all percussionists. Throughout the year, we establish a good foundation on note reading, understanding major and minor scales, understanding key signatures, as well as developing an auditory ability to hear certain intervals and chords and apply it to the way they perform their music, the way they're actually putting it into context with their performance. Later on, we get into a little bit more interesting harmonic analysis, which is fancy words for looking at a larger piece of music and understanding how it's put together. Again, those fundamentals that we cover the first semester, scales and key signatures, time signatures and rhythm all come into play in the back half of the year, where we start analyzing larger pieces of work, maybe pieces of work that are outside of their realm of their instruments. Lots of group projects and composition projects, and it culminates at the end of the year with a big research assignment that goes along with understanding the history of a piece, as well as what went into composing it and breaking it down and seeing how all of those fundamentals we learned at the beginning of the year come into play and make the music what it is.
And then Ms. Pearson teaches our sophomore theory class, and that is a piano-based theory class. So in addition to the 4 years of instruction on their primary instrument, they also get a year of learning how to play the piano. And so they're learning about, all of the fundamentals that they learned with Mr. Osborne, and now they're actually applying it to an instrument. So they're learning a lot of things about chord structure and chord progressions, harmonies, and how to play that on a piano. And they learn a little bit about how to actually accompany someone, so that if they had, to accompany a soloist, they learn how to actually, play with other people as well as just individually, and just applying all the theory that they learned to another instrument. So that's sophomores, and then the juniors come to me. And we, my class focuses a lot on music history, which is just essential to them as performers, knowing about the different eras of music, knowing about different composers, knowing about different performance practice from all these different eras of music. So we learn about history and theory kind of in tandem. We'll learn about an era of music history, and then we'll learn about some of the theoretical concepts that came from that era. So they can not only, reinforce and start to expand on the things that they learned in their first 2 years, but it also gives it a little bit of context, like why all of these rules and theory came to be, and why, musical notation is the way it is, and so on and so forth. So, we're just taking, a lot more analyzing, taking all of the things that they learned the first 2 years and just going further in depth so we can prepare them for Mrs. Kavanaugh.
Yeah, and I have the pleasure of having the seniors for an advanced placement music theory class. And our students have the advantage of having had all these 3 years in preparation for the advanced placement course. So that's kind of a culminating experience of all their information. So I want to make sure that I mention that letters of recommendation are required of all Academy applicants. And so in terms of music, we no longer have an audition. So we very much value getting a letter of recommendation from someone who knows you as a musician, preferably your band, orchestra, chorus teacher. And if that doesn't work for you for some reason, if you are involved in a music program with your church or somewhere else in the community, if you have an adult that can write a brief letter on your behalf, that would be very much appreciated.
So that's just a little overview of our program, the different things that the kids get to do throughout the 4 years with us. And, the program is unlike anything else in the district. All the district high schools have band, orchestra, and chorus. But I believe we're the only school at this time that's offering AP theory, and we're certainly the only school that offers all of the other years of theory, the piano instruction, the music history, and we're definitely the only school that has the ECC dual credit where, they get the 4 free years of private lessons. So, it's a really unique program. If your child, loves music or is interested in maybe pursuing a career in music after high school, this is really a great opportunity for them to lay a really solid foundation, because all of these things that we've talked about are things that they would also be taking in college. So it really lays a nice foundation for them and better prepares them for a career in music. So I wanted to open it up to, if any of you have any questions, you can either unmute or you can type it in the chat. We'd love to answer any questions that you have for us.
Hello, how you doing, everyone? Sorry, it was rude. I just had a quick question. Do I find out through the office if the GPA of my student, so I will know that he does qualify?
I believe that would be a question for Mr. Duty. I will
Okay.
put his contact information in the chat. He's the gentleman that you met with initially. I'm not sure.
Okay,
The application process for the academy has changed in the past couple of years. And so, you know, what used to be a requirement isn't necessarily a requirement anymore. And so he would be the best person to answer that, because this is all still pretty new to us. We've been doing it one way for so many years. So he would be the person to ask about that. And where can they find the application documents? Do you guys have that website handy, or would that be another question for Mr. Duty?
That's all on the district homepage. And I'm thinking Mr. Duty shared that with people.
Okay.
How to find that, I hope, in the general meeting. I'm gonna, yeah, I'm
Yes, he did.
going, oh, go ahead.
No, I was sorry, just gonna say, yes, he did. He mentioned that information. So I was just, I didn't know whether he did say something about the GPA or I didn't hear it. So that's why I was just asking that question, but thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. And I want to encourage, if you at any time have a question about music, it can come to me and I'll make sure whoever one of my colleagues might need to receive the question, I will pass that on.
Do we have any other questions in here that we can answer for you?
Yes, can you, I'm sorry, once again, when would this program will start?
That's a great question. That is next year. So our current 8th graders would begin with us next August.
Okay, okay, makes sense. Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Here's a question. What can these high school music classes get me in college? So does somebody want to respond to that, or?
Well, with the question first, it could be addressing the dual credit, and you get elective credits for those lessons that would possibly be transferred to the college that you plan on attending. But a deeper meaning that could possibly be in this is, how can these classes, high school music classes, get you further in college or well prepared in college? And as mentioned prior, many of the concepts and ideas that we cover from year 1 to year 4 with our theory courses prepare you for classes that you would have to take as a music major or even a music minor. As well, if you choose throughout your time to maybe divulge from being a professional musician for any reason or another, it still allows you that skill of playing and understanding the music, which would allow you to possibly get a number of scholarships for any school. So on top of having some credits already in your favor for electives, you also have a pathway that could allow you to ease the financial burden of college by being in an ensemble, or playing in a small group setting, or even just working with one of the on-site musicians that runs a club or a program. Any of those are options. Please let me know in the chat if that didn't really address your question, but those are the two ways I kind of see that question coming in.
This is an example. I have a student who she graduated last year and she ended up going into nursing. That's what she's majoring in. But she took an audition for some scholarship money, and just by agreeing to play in their orchestra, her school gave her $10,000 in scholarship money to use over the 4 years that she's there. So, you know, even if they just love music and they want to be a part of this program, they're not sure if they want to major or minor in it in college. Even if they just make the commitment to play, they can still get a lot of scholarship money. So, I mean, it's really, I think kids don't always realize. They think, well, I have to major if I'm going to get the scholarships. And that's not necessarily true, especially schools, that are like engineering schools or, have a strong medical program or science program. Those are, not fine arts classes, not fine arts majors. So they're always looking for ways to boost their fine arts schools. And that's a really great way that they do it.
Yeah, and that also riffing on that with the music theory, students reach out to us later and say, those that are pursuing music, they're like, wow, what we learned was on our entrance exam, our placement exam in music theory. So, we're hopeful that that will give kids a jump. Any other questions tonight?
Well, if you think of anything else that we can answer, Mr. Duty and Ms. Kavanaugh's emails are in the chat. And just to reinforce what Ruth said earlier, any music related questions should go to her, and then she can kind of figure out which teacher needs to answer it. Anything about like the application process and more general academy questions would be better to shoot an email to Mr. Duty. So, if you think of anything before, the application deadline is due or at any point during the year, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We know it's a lot to take in one evening, so. Oh, of course, we are so happy. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see all of your students in the fall. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you so much.